The influence of cinema on society has been a topic of debate for decades. While most viewers can distinguish between fiction and reality, some individuals have taken inspiration from films in disturbing ways, leading to real-world violence. This video explores 10 cases where criminals were reportedly inspired by movies, highlighting the complex relationship between media and criminal behavior. But first, subscribe to our channel for more content, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family. Oliver Stone's controversial film about a pair of lovers on a killing spree inspired several copycat crimes. The most notorious case involved Sarah Edmondson and Benjamin Darras, two teenagers from Oklahoma who went on a crime spree in 1995 after watching the movie repeatedly while under the influence of LSD. Edmondson and Darras shot and paralyzed a convenience store clerk in Mississippi and then murdered a man in Louisiana. During their trial, their defense team argued that the film had diminished their responsibility for the crimes. This case gained significant media attention and even prompted author John Grisham to advocate for holding filmmakers legally responsible for inspiring violent acts. The film was also linked to the Columbine High School massacre in 1999. Shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold reportedly referred to going NBA natural-born killers in their diaries before carrying out the attack. The movie's influence extended to other crimes, including a Texas teenager who decapitated a young girl, claiming he wanted to be famous like the natural-born killers. The horror franchise featuring the murderous doll Chucky has been associated with several violent crimes. One of the most shocking cases was the Port Arthur massacre in Australia in 1996. The perpetrator, Martin Bryant, who killed 35 people, was reportedly obsessed with the film Child's Play 2 and often quoted the movie's catchphrase. In 1993, the brutal murder of 2-year-old James Bulger in England was linked to Child's Play 3. The two 10-year-old killers had allegedly watched the film shortly before the murder, though this connection was later disputed. The case sparked a debate about the impact of reportedly shouted "Chucky's coming to play" during the assault and played music featuring samples from the Child's Play films. Wes Craven's meta-horror film Scream inspired several copycat crimes in the years following its release. In 1998, a teenage boy in California murdered his mother by stabbing her multiple times with knives and a screwdriver, mimicking the film's brutal killing style. A particularly chilling case occurred in 2001 in Belgium. Thierry Girardin, dressed in the iconic Ghostface costume from the movie, stabbed his neighbor, Alison Cambier, 30 times. After the murder, he placed a rose in her hand and laid her body on his bed, creating a macabre scene reminiscent of the film. In 2006, two high school students murdered their classmate, Cassie Jo Stoddart, while she was house-sitting. The boys claimed they were inspired by Scream and the Columbine shooters. They even filmed themselves planning the murder, echoing the movie's self-referential style. The Wachowskis' sci-fi classic about a simulated reality has been cited in several criminal cases. In 2000, Swedish exchange student Vadim Messages dismembered his landlady and told police he had been sucked into the Matrix, suggesting he believed he was living in a simulated world. Lee Boyd Malvo, one of the perpetrators of the 2002 DC sniper attacks that left 17 people dead, claimed to have watched The Matrix more than 100 times. He attempted to use this as part of an insanity defense, arguing that the film had warped his perception of reality. In 2003, Tonda Lynn Ansley murdered her landlady in Ohio, claiming she believed the victim was part of a conspiracy to brainwash and kill her. Ansley's defense team argued that she suffered from Matrix syndrome, a delusion that she was living in a simulated reality, like the one depicted in the film. The film adaptation of Bret Easton Ellis's controversial novel has been linked to several violent crimes. In 2004, Michael Hernandez, a middle school student in Florida, murdered a classmate and cited the film's protagonist, Patrick Bateman, as a major inspiration for his crime. Canadian killer Luca Magnotta gained notoriety in 2012 for filming himself murdering his male lover with an ice pick while playing music from the American Psycho soundtrack. The crime scene also included references to the film, suggesting Magnotta was attempting to recreate scenes from the movie. In 2014, Rurik Judding, a British banker working in Hong Kong, murdered 2 Indonesian women in his apartment. Judding confessed to being a huge fan of both the novel and film versions of American Psycho, and investigators found parallels between his crimes and those depicted in the story. The film adaptation of John Fowles' novel has had a disturbing influence on several serial killers. Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, who murdered at least 25 people in California, referred to their kidnapping and torture of women as Operation Miranda, named after the kidnapped character in The Collector. Serial killer Christopher Wilder, known as the Beauty Queen Killer, had a copy of The Collector in his possession when he was killed by police in 1984. The book's themes of abduction and captivity seem to have influenced his modus operandi. Robert Berdella, a Kansas City serial killer, claimed that watching The Collector as a teenager inspired his later crimes. Berdella kidnapped, tortured, and murdered at least 6 men, keeping detailed logs of his actions in a manner reminiscent of the film's protagonist. Stanley Kubrick's controversial film about ultraviolence and free will sparked several copycat crimes in the UK. In 1973, a 16-year-old British teen named Richard Palmer stomped a homeless man to death, mirroring a scene from the film where the protagonist and his gang attack a vagrant. A particularly disturbing incident occurred when a Dutch girl was gang raped in Lancaster, England, while her attackers sang "Singin' in the Rain," directly recreating a scene from the movie. This and other violent incidents led Kubrick to withdraw the film from circulation in the UK. The film's influence extended beyond individual crimes to inspire a broader culture of violence among some youth subcultures. The distinctive costumes and slang used in the film were adopted by gangs, leading to further concerns about its impact on society. William Friedkin's horror classic about demonic possession has been linked to at least one tragic case of real-life violence. On February 12, 1980, Patricia Frazier of Wichita Falls, Texas, watched a televised version of The Exorcist. Afterward, believing her 4-year-old daughter was possessed by demons, Frazier cut out the child's heart. During Frazier's trial, a psychiatrist testified that she had suffered cinematic trauma and was experiencing delusions of being manipulated by supernatural forces. This testimony led to Frazier being found not guilty by reason of insanity. The case raised questions about the psychological impact of horror films on vulnerable viewers. The incident also sparked debates about parental responsibility and media consumption. While The Exorcist was not directly blamed for the crime, it highlighted concerns about the potential for horror films to trigger extreme reactions in some individuals, especially those with pre-existing mental health issues. The slasher series featuring the iconic killer Jason Voorhees has inspired at least one known copycat crime. In 1988, just before Halloween, 18-year-old psychology student Sharon Gregory was studying 19-year-old Mark Branch due to his obsession with the Friday the 13th mythos. Branch, wearing a hockey mask and black boots like Jason Voorhees, stabbed Gregory to death in her home. This case was particularly disturbing because Gregory was studying Branch's fascination with the films when she became his victim. It highlighted the potential dangers of engaging with individuals who show an unhealthy obsession with violent media. After the murder, Branch evaded capture for several days before being found hanging from a tree in an apparent suicide. The case raised questions about the impact of repeated exposure to violent films on individuals with mental health issues and the potential for fantasy to spill over into reality. The dystopian horror series, which depicts an annual event where all crime is legal for 12 hours, has been linked to real-world violence. In May 2016, 19-year-old Jonathan Cruz went on a 4-day killing spree in Indiana, murdering 3 people. Cruz told acquaintances that he was purging, directly referencing the film series. Police found cell phone clips of Cruz boasting, "Better go on Facebook and watch the videos of me shooting people. I purge every night now." This case demonstrated how the film's premise of consequence-free violence could be misinterpreted and acted upon by troubled individuals. The franchise also sparked a moral panic in Louisville, Kentucky, in 2014. Rumors of a real-life purge led to 80,000 residents locking themselves indoors, fearing widespread riots. While no actual purge occurred, the incident highlighted the film's impact on public perception and fear of crime. These cases illustrate the complex relationship between media and criminal behavior. While it's crucial to note that millions of people watch these films without engaging in violent acts, these incidents raise important questions about media responsibility, mental health, and the power of cinematic narratives. It's essential to approach this topic with nuance, recognizing that while movies can influence behavior, they are rarely the sole cause of criminal actions. Instead, they often interact with pre-existing psychological issues, social factors, and individual circumstances. As society continues to grapple with these issues, ongoing research and dialogue are necessary to better understand and address the potential impacts of media on vulnerable individuals.